Okay, let's get into one of the wildest comebacks in all of history. We're talking about Napoleon Bonaparte's final, super dramatic stand.
It's this whirlwind period, right? From escape to final defeat. It all happens in just over 3 months.
And that's what we know as the 100 Days. So today, we're going to try and figure out how a guy exiled to a tiny island manages to just walk back and reclaim an entire empire.
And without firing a single shot on the way, it says so much about his charisma, but also about where Europe was at the time.
So we have to start with the defeat, the big one.
Right. By April 1814, it's all over for him, or so it seems. The Allied powers, that's Britain, Russia, Prussia, Austria, they've captured Paris.
And they basically force him to step down. He has to sign the Treaty of Fontainebleau.
Yeah, and that treaty it's a really interesting document. It strips him of all his power to rule France, but they let him keep his title. He's still emperor.
Which seems kind of strange, but Europe just needed him gone. Immediately.
So they exile him to Elba, a small island in the Mediterranean. For France, it was a mix of relief that the wars were over and real sadness that this legendary figure was gone.
And the Allies' goal was simple. Just put him somewhere he can't start any more wars.
But here's what seems like a massive mistake in hindsight. They let him rule Elba.
Wait, what? They let him be the emperor of Elba. The whole point was to neutralize him. How did they justify that?
It was a very weird diplomatic compromise. I think they figured giving him this tiny kingdom, it's only about 86 square miles, would sort of satisfy his ego and keep him quiet.
But Elba is tiny, and it's only, what, 6 miles off the coast of Italy?
Exactly. For a man who controlled half a continent, it was basically a cage with a view.
Yeah.
A nice cage, rugged mountains, beautiful coastline, but still a cage.
So he arrives at the main port, Portoferraio, and
Yeah.
he just refuses to be idle.
Absolutely not. You get this picture of, one of history's greatest generals acting like a mix between a king and a really intense mayor.
He had to look the part, right?
Oh, yeah. One of his first acts is designing a new flag for the island. It had 3 golden bees on a red stripe. He lived in a place called the Palazzina dei Mulini, high on a hill overlooking the sea.
Still, it wasn't a palace in Paris.
Not even close. His mother and sister even came to visit, just to give him some comfort.
What's amazing to me is that this continent conqueror immediately starts obsessing over tiny details.
He had this deep-seated need to be in control of things, even small things. He couldn't just, sit and admire the view. He had to manage it.
Right. He basically becomes this super efficient city planner.
He does. He throws himself into improving things for the people on Elba. He orders new roads to be built, connecting all the little remote villages to the ports.
He also dove into the economy, didn't he?
He did. The island had these iron ore mines, and he focused on making them way more efficient, more profitable.
And he brought his legal mind to it, too.
Yep. He created the famous Napoleonic Code for France, so he starts modernizing Elba's laws. And he really focuses on public welfare, which was huge for the people living there.
Things like public health.
Big time. New hospitals were built. Sanitation systems were completely overhauled to fight disease. He even pushed for new crops, like potatoes and olives, to boost the food supply.
So the residents of Elba actually did really well out of this.
Immensely well. These were huge modern changes for a small traditional island. It kept him busy for a while.
So the administrator in him was busy, but the general must have been bored out of his mind.
That's exactly it. After a few months of this, the restlessness kicks in. Building roads is one thing, but he missed, grand politics, commanding armies.
And then external pressures start to build up, giving him the perfect excuse.
2 big things. First, money. The new French government was supposed to pay him a stipend under the treaty.
And they just didn't.
They didn't. So he's struggling to pay his small staff, his guards. He's literally having trouble paying the bills for his tiny kingdom.
On top of that, there's the personal anxiety.
Intense anxiety. He's worried sick about his family. His wife, Marie-Louise, and his son were kept away from him. He wasn't allowed to see them.
And then the rumors start.
Scary rumors. He's hearing that the European leaders want to move him somewhere much, much more remote, like a tiny island in the middle of the Atlantic.
So he feels the walls closing in. He's not an emperor. He's a prisoner being watched by British spies.
Exactly. And at the same time, back in France, the political situation is getting shaky.
Yeah.
This creates a perfect opportunity for him.
The Bourbon monarchy is back in power with King Louis XVIII.
Right. And people aren't happy. The new king is bringing back old privileges that the revolution had gotten rid of. The soldiers, especially, felt insulted.
The soldiers who had fought and bled for Napoleon?
Their sacrifices felt ignored. And with economic problems growing, people started to look back on Napoleon's era a lot more fondly. They remember the stability he brought.
So Napoleon is getting secret messages about all this.
He is. He's getting reports that the public is unhappy, that the army is restless. He starts to think, maybe they'd welcome me back.
Okay, so the stage is set. France seems ready. Now for the impossible part. The escape.
He planned it with absolute secrecy and incredible care. He had this small fleet with his main ship, the Inconstant.
And he used some classic misdirection.
Pure genius. He ordered his men to paint the ship to look like a British vessel, just to trick any patrols.
And the timing had to be perfect.
It was. He waited until the British commissioner who was assigned to watch him was away on a trip to Italy.
So on the night of February 26, 1815, he and about 1,000 soldiers just slip away.
They quietly board the ships and sail off. I mean, think about that risk. If they're caught, he's certainly executed.
But 3 days later, he makes it. He lands on the southern coast of France at a place called Gulf Juan on March 1st.
And he immediately makes this dramatic declaration. He says the eagle would fly to the towers of Notre Dame.
Landing is the easy part, though. He now has to march hundreds of miles north to Paris.
And this is where his tactical brilliance shines again. He knew the main road was full of royalist supporters who would try to stop him.
So he avoids it.
Completely. Instead, he takes this incredibly difficult snowy path through the French Alps.
Oh.
Today, it's actually known as the Route Napoleon.
It was a brutal march, but strategically it was genius.
Because it allowed him to move fast and avoid confrontation, aiming for the city of Grenoble. He believed the army there would join him.
And this leads to maybe the most famous moment of the whole story, near a town called Laffrey.
Yes. Royal soldiers sent by the king are there with orders to arrest him. They're blocking the road, muskets raised.
And Napoleon doesn't hide. He walks forward, alone.
Right in front of their guns. He opens his coat and he yells something like, "Soldiers, if there's one among you who wants to kill his emperor, here I am."
What a moment, the ultimate gamble.
And it pays off instantly. The soldiers lower their guns. They start shouting, "Long live the emperor!" And they switch sides, just like that.
It's this huge psychological victory, and no one even fired a shot.
Exactly. It proved the army's loyalty was still with him, not the king. And from that point on, his force just gets bigger with every town he passes through.
It's not a march anymore, it's a parade.
It really is. More and more army regiments defect to his side. Back in Paris, King Louis XVIII realizes he has no support left.
So he flees.
He flees in the middle of the night, and on March 20th, Napoleon enters Paris. Carried up the stairs of the palace by a cheering crowd, he'd reclaimed his empire.
But the clock started ticking the second he got back. The leaders of Europe were all meeting in Austria at the Congress of Vienna. What exactly was that?
The Congress of Vienna was basically Europe's biggest cleanup crew. After years of Napoleon's wars messing everything up, all the top diplomats were there redrawing the map of Europe, trying to create a lasting peace.
And then they get the news. Their biggest problem is back.
And they were furious. They immediately declare him an outlaw and an enemy of world peace.
This wasn't a discussion, it was a military death sentence.
No diplomacy this time. Britain, Prussia, Austria, Russia, they all agreed to raise massive armies to crush him for good. They completely ignored his letters saying he just wanted peace.
So Napoleon realizes he has to strike first before they can all team up.
He raises an army and marches north into Belgium. And that leads us to June of 1815 and the Battle of Waterloo.
The final showdown.
On a muddy field in Belgium, he faces the British army under the Duke of Wellington and the Prussian army under General Blücher. He almost won.
But a few key mistakes and the timely arrival of the Prussians
Sealed his fate. The French army was overwhelmed. The 100 days were over.
He goes back to Paris, abdicates for a second time, and then surrenders to the British Navy.
And this time, the Allies were not taking any chances. No more island kingdoms.
They sent him to St. Helena, which is about as remote as you can get.
It's just this tiny volcanic rock, 1,200 miles from any coast, deep in the Atlantic Ocean. He lived there under constant guard until his death in 1821.
It's such a spectacular story. He used nothing but his own reputation to defy every major power on the continent, even if it was just for a few short months.
A truly incredible final chapter.
So here's something for you to think about. When Napoleon was on Elba, he was building roads, hospitals, improving sanitation, small-scale constructive things. Then you have the massive wars that killed millions. Which of those actions do you think left a more positive, lasting impact on history?
It's a good question to consider. We hope this helps you look at Napoleon and this period in a new way.
Good luck with your studies.